Hi, this is Dr. D and today we will talk about COVID-19 vaccines. I am a GP in the UK and on my YouTube channel I talk about common symptoms and conditions that we see in general practice. This video is not for doctors, but for patients, where I explain the symptoms and provide advice about what to do about them. If you want to receive updates about the new videos on my channel, please click subscribe and notifications buttons. Today we will talk about COVID-19 vaccines. I guess there is not a single person on this planet who hasn't been affected by COVID in this or other way. By now in certain countries like the US, even more people have died of COVID than in both world wars combined. Vaccines have been the success story of the COVID-19 pandemic, with 3 already approved for use in the UK. And promising late-stage trial results for a further 2 vaccines backed by the UK government. In this video I will explain how each type of vaccine works and will tell you what protection they provide. The data on efficacy is sometimes approximate due to trials and post-vaccination data taking place at different times and in different countries. There are 4 main types of vaccines: mRNA vaccines including Pfizer and Moderna vaccines, adenoviral vector vaccines including University of Oxford AstraZeneca, Janssen vaccines, protein-based vaccines including Novavax and GSK Sanofi, and finally inactivated whole virus vaccines, such as Valneva. So first let's talk about the mRNA vaccine mechanism of action. In general, all vaccines are based on the idea that the so-called spike protein is a key element in COVID infection, as it is responsible for the virus attachment and entry into the cells. Additionally, it is in the surface of the virus, so will be easy to spot by immune system. RNA vaccines contain RNA that encode this spike protein. This RNA is captured inside the lipid nanoparticle and the mixture is injected in the muscle tissue. There the nanoparticles are quickly engulfed by our immune cells, and the RNA mixes up with our own RNA. These immune cells, we call them antigen-presenting cells, then make copies of the spike protein, and display them on their surface. The rest of the immune system will then be aware of this spike protein and create response to it, including antibodies and cytotoxic T cells. If the person then becomes infected with the virus, the immune system will quickly recognize and eliminate it. The first mRNA vaccine is Pfizer. It was rolled out in the UK based on a phase 2-3 study suggesting that 2 doses of this vaccine confer 94.6% protection against symptomatic COVID-19, at least 7 days following the second dose. 1 case of severe COVID-19 occurred in the vaccine group compared with 9 in the placebo group. As you can see, the test groups were quite small. 40 million doses of Pfizer vaccine have been ordered by the UK government. Since then, several real-world studies have been published. A study of 7,000 healthcare workers in Israel suggests that vaccine efficacy against symptomatic COVID-19 infection is 85%. Further data from Israel's mass vaccination program estimates the efficacy of the first dose to be 46% for any infection, 57% for symptomatic infection and 74% for hospitalization. Even the first dose is estimated to be 72% effective in preventing death from COVID-19. 2 doses however provided more than 90% protection from all these outcomes. Similar data was obtained from Public Health England's Siren study. A US study of healthcare personnel, published on the 29th of March 2021, suggests vaccine efficacy for Pfizer and Moderna vaccines is 80% against all infections after the first dose and 90% after the second dose. Is it effective against new variants? Yes, but effectiveness may be reduced against some variants and more data are needed. Does it work in older people? Yes. Does it reduce transmission? Yes, but we need more data to know the extent of the reduction. Are there any safety concerns? The safety profile includes injection site reactions and generalized flu-like symptoms. After few cases of anaphylactic shock, It was advised that Pfizer vaccine should not be given to people with history of anaphylaxis. The next mRNA vaccine is Moderna. It is approved in the UK and 17 million doses have been ordered. The latest data on Moderna effectiveness is 94.1% against symptomatic infection 14 days after the second dose. No cases of severe COVID-19 occurred in the vaccine group compared with 30 in the placebo group. Does it work against new variants? Yes, but effectiveness may be reduced against some variants. Moderna is effective against the UK variant but produces 6 times less response to South African variant and 2.6 times less response to Brazilian variant. Does it work in older people? Yes. Does it reduce transmission? More than likely, but we need more data. Are there any safety concerns? The main reported side effects are injection site reactions and generalized flu-like symptoms. The next main group of vaccines are adenoviral vector vaccines. Adenoviral vector vaccines are made using a relatively new technology, which uses a monkey common cold virus to deliver the genetic instructions for human cells to make the SARS-CoV-2 spike protein, priming the immune system to attack the SARS-CoV-2 virus if it later infects the body. Adenoviral vaccine is very similar to the mRNA vaccines, but instead of the lipid nanoparticle the spike protein mRNA is loaded in the monkey common cold virus. The rationale behind that is that when the mixture is injected in the muscle tissue the virus will more readily infect our immune cells and make them produce the spike protein similarly to the mRNA vaccine. The rest of the process is identical. The main adenoviral vaccine is Oxford AstraZeneca. It is approved in the UK and 100 million doses have been ordered. The latest data on the effectiveness suggest vaccine efficacy of 76% against symptomatic infection after a single dose, raising to 82.4% after a second dose. There were no hospitalizations or deaths in the vaccine group. Recent study in 32,449 participants in the US, Peru and Chile showed 100% efficacy of the AstraZeneca vaccine against severe or critical disease. Does it work against new variants? Yes and no. It produces 9 times less antibody against the UK variant, however in real life its efficacy against symptomatic cases was similar at 76 to 84%. It also produces 12 times less antibody against South African variant, and the latest study suggests that a 2-dose regimen has an efficacy of only 10%. Brazilian variant had a better response with 2.9-fold antibody reduction and no data about real efficacy. Does it work in older people? Yes. Does it reduce transmission? Yes, likely by 67%. Are there any safety concerns? The safety profile based on clinical trials shows main side effects as injection site reactions and generalized flu-like symptoms. However, in March 2021, some countries temporarily paused the use of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine based mainly on isolated reports of cerebral sinus vein thrombosis with thrombocytopenia shortly after vaccination. Following a rigorous scientific review of all available data in March, the UK Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency said that the available evidence does not suggest that blood clots are caused by the vaccine. After an ongoing safety review in April, it was determined that by March 31, 20.2 million doses of the AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine had been given in the UK, with an overall blood clot risk of 4 people in a million who received it. All the cases involved people who had received their first dose of the vaccine. There were 79 reports of blood clots accompanied by low blood platelet count, and of those 79, a total of 19 people had died. Of the 19 who died, 3 were under the age of 30. Out of those deaths, 14 cases involved cerebral venous sinus thrombosis and the remaining 5 cases were other kinds of thrombosis in major veins. As a result, the Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency said that everybody who has already had a first dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine should receive a second dose of the same brand, irrespective of age, except for the very small number of people who experienced blood clots with low platelet counts from their first vaccination. People under 30 should be offered an alternative vaccine to the AstraZeneca vaccine. What symptoms do the clots cause? These are shortness of breath, chest pain, swelling of leg, persistent stomach pain, severe headache, blurred vision, skin bruising beyond the site of injection. If you develop these symptoms after vaccination, please call your doctor immediately. Janssen, Novavax, GSK, Sanofi and Valneva vaccines are not yet approved in the UK. All vaccine rollout is currently regulated by the UK government and the NHS, and depends on the supply. So, while it is important to have the knowledge of the vaccines, it is not always in our control to choose which one we can take. It is also important to keep in mind that currently the second dose has to be of the same vaccine. The rollout is done by age groups, however people with certain conditions are considered vulnerable to COVID and receive vaccines as a priority. To find the list of these conditions, please see the website in the description. Finally, I would like to say few words about the future. In the last few days, the government has announced reopening of shops, travel to certain countries and a possible introduction of COVID passports as well as nationwide testing. Summer vacations are back on the table, but likely mostly domestically, back to the era of staycation before the advent of cheap flights. This is based on the levels of infections and reported deaths being the lowest since autumn lockdown. While this is excellent news, we have to be wary that COVID is by far not over. An excellent example is the ongoing third wave in the European Union, the E2 beds full again there. This can happen in the UK as well. At the moment, we cannot be sure that our vaccination program will prevent it. So far around the globe there have been 132 million COVID infections resulting in almost 3 million deaths. Unfortunately, this number may be just the tip of the iceberg because the main problem of epidemic is that it disrupts the usual services and specifically clogs hospitals for everything else. Therefore, we are likely to see increased mortality from other conditions, namely cancer. On a bright side, due to wearing masks, the incidence of common cold and flu has drastically fallen. If you want to know more about COVID-19 itself, see my video in the link in the description. I hope you have found this short video useful. In the description there are links to the NHS and gov.uk websites where you can read more about COVID and make self-assessment. If you liked this video and would like me to make more videos, please support me on Patreon, the link is here and in the description. If you want to see a video about my favorite COVID memes, please click on this link. If you would like me to speak about more medical conditions, please leave your suggestions in the comments.